Hey everyone, Tony D with a hot take about a bunch of things. So forgive my rambling in advance. I got a lot of little things on my plate. First up, I want to tell you that I had a surprise lined up for you, but it kind of fell through. And I'll tell you now, I was going to go to the Trump thing. I was going to go to the Trump rally in Wildwood. But now it's off for a couple of reasons. The main one, oh, here's little Joan. Say hi. Hello. The main one being that it's just impossible to get there. They're closing off half the roads. Normally when I go to Wildwood, I a lot of times I take the back way, even at the height of the summer, and they're closing all those ways off. And there's construction, and it's just going to be a bad scene all around. And people are camping out today. It'd be different if I can go there, wait in line, get a ticket. But they gave out 25,000 tickets to this thing, I've heard, and there's only 7,500 seats. So I kind of don't. And I know people who are in Wildwood, and the word we're getting is it's just a nightmare already, and it's Monday. So sorry, I'm not going. No offense to the Trump guys either. But it's also a bad time because the coronavirus is around. It's kind of a bad time to be at a big crowd. So coronavirus warriors, do yourself a favor, put on a face mask if you're going to a big event like a Trump rally or anything else. Joan, by the way, got a bath. And so she's a lot cleaner, right, Joan? You feeling good? Nah, not really. She's still kind of pissed off. So today I was looking at some news articles, and there's lots of stuff going on, and I'm watching videos, and there's not any real one big story other than, of course, Kobe, which was very tragic. The poor guy. Here he is. He's multi-millionaire. He's retired at 41. He's got kids. It's just tragic. But like I said in the video, it's the dangers of being that rich. Like you start taking helicopters to places, and the helicopters are only so safe. So yeah, you won't catch me up in one. It's helicopters are kind of, I don't even like to fly, not at all. So if I can help it, I will drive. I'd rather drive 2 days than take a plane. But there's a bunch of little news stories. I guess the biggest news story is the Democratic Party kind of tearing itself apart from the inside. There's basically two camps that are kind of forming, and it's the Biden camp and the Bernie camp. And the Biden camp says we're not going to vote for Bernie, and Bernie can't win, which is true. And the Bernie camp says the same thing about Biden, which is probably true. Barring some sort of major incident where Trump is incapacitated, I don't think either one of these guys can beat him, but especially Bernie. Bernie bros, and listen, I know you guys really like Bernie, but the truth is, all the polling shows that the people who are on board with socialism are the kind of people who live in major cities. They live in major urban areas, and they see it as, they see socialism as, well, it would be the same city I live in, but we would take care of everybody. And that's a really unrealistic way of looking at things. It just, socialism has been tried so many times, and it's failed utterly. And, it just can't work. What I think a lot of people, if you actually cornered them and said, listen, what do you really mean by socialism? What they really mean is, I wish we had a few policies that would help poor people or help people. And that's noble, and people want to have that sort of nobility about them. They want to think that they're a good person and would do stuff for poor people. But, the fact of the matter is, it's really tough. It's really tough to help poor people. It's tough. And I admire people who, they'll refurbish a food truck and go out there and feed the homeless, or they run a soup kitchen, or they run a shelter, and they run a charity organization that helps people, tries to get people off the streets and back to work. And I admire those people. I can't admire people who want the same adulation, but just want to like vote, or just want to say, my politics are enough. It's really not. Even if you had these ridiculous socialist programs, and they've been tried and failed, there's still work to be done. Just because you can get a voucher for food and a place to live and education, if you're mentally ill, those vouchers aren't going to mean anything. Possibly, you could be so mentally ill you can't handle it. You could be a veteran suffering from PTSD. You could just be the sort of person who's messed up and freaked out and paranoid. And there are some homeless people. They've acclimated to the streets so much they can't figure it out anymore. They can't figure out how to live like indoor people anymore. They've been living on the streets too long, and it's really tough. These people take time and patience and money, and we need something better than just hacking off a portion of the government and handing it to people and hoping that everybody gets their act together. You need more compassion. You need more individual instruction for people, and you need to stop creating these people. That's the big thing. I think, whether you want to admit it or not, the fact that we have a better economy means that we're going to have less of these people. There are people who are homeless who shouldn't be homeless. They were fully functioning people, and they just hit on some bad times. And unfortunately, the economics got bad for a while. And I know, because I suffered under it, and I'm the sort of person that could end up that way. I'm pretty poor, and I don't want to end up that way. But at the same time, I don't feel entitled to, constant money, free money. If I had free money just to live, I would just stay home and write my comics and books, and I wouldn't worry about money, and that would be it. Whether people read my books or not, that's what I would do. By putting the profit motive in there, it forces me to understand that I got to do more than just write. I have to promote. I have to do all the grown-up things that are boring and annoying, and you have to do them. And some people, it's overwhelming for them. I've been overwhelmed by it at times, and it's overwhelming for a lot of millennials. And they think that by creating a socialist utopia, that burden will be lifted, and it just won't. The burden will be made much, much worse when you still can't pay the bills and you're getting money. Because the bureaucracy will make it worse, because they will provide conditions by which you will, get the money or whatever. There will be thresholds to meet or not meet. So the Democrats are not going to, the normal Democrats are not people who want socialism. They wanted social change. They want people to be accepted. They wanted a few programs to help people, but they were always tempered by conservatives who would say, well, this is what we could afford to do. The problem is that once you start a government program, it almost never ends. So we have government programs that, they should have ended decades ago, subsidies and things like that. And they just grind on. And so what Democrats have to do, I think, is they have to learn economics, and they have to understand the economics of helping people. There are limits. Even Bernie Sanders said, we can't have open borders. Everybody in the world will come to America, and we can't handle everybody. So there are limits, and you have to acknowledge those limits. Again, it's all about limits on the left. As soon as the left sets their limits, they're going to be better off for it. And it's tough to set limits. It's a grown-up thing to do, but you have to do it. You know, I would love to eat cake at every meal, every day, but I set limits. I only eat cake at certain times. The other interesting story was Trump announced that he's got this peace deal going on in the Middle East with Netanyahu. And the Palestinians immediately jumped up and said, no, we're not signing a peace deal. What are you, crazy? And my thought immediately was Trump may actually create a scenario in which he announces a peace deal between the Israelis and the Palestinians. And it won't actually be a peace deal. Like, it won't actually make peace. But it may finally give us the excuse we need to go, okay, we're done with the Middle East, and be able to finally pull out of it all. Even though I think what Trump is going to do is he's just going to hand everything to Israel and say, okay, you're in charge now, leave us out of this, which isn't a very good peace deal. But the thing is, the moment we got into that mess, in the Middle East was the moment we took sides and caused ourselves nothing but problems. So ultimately, it probably wouldn't be a very fair way to end things, but it was probably heading in that direction anyway, and it might actually get us out of the Middle East so we don't have all these other problems. So all these other countries don't use it as an excuse to hate us, and it could give us the ability to get out of those countries as well, or on the borders of those countries like we are with Iran and a few others. So if anybody could pull it off, it'll be Trump. He'll just say, yep, we've got a peace plan, and everybody go, this isn't really a peace plan. Peace plan. And he'll just walk out of the room and declare victory. I mean, that's what we really need to do to get out all these countries, is just have a guy like Trump declare we won and leave. And yes, it won't really be a victory like World War II victory, signing a peace deal on a ship and having a whole Times Square thing, but it'll be something that will finally, in a pragmatic sense, end the endless wars for the United States. And if Trump could do that, my God, he would be the greatest person who ever lived, quite frankly. He would be lauded for many decades after. So I hope he can do that. I don't know if that's his plan. It's a little hard to read the Trumpmeister, but I, for one, would like to see it. And the other thing about Trump, of course, today was the John Bolton thing. John Bolton's a snake. We all know it. He's the biggest warmonger on 2 feet. I don't really think anything he said in his book is necessarily going to impact impeachment. And again, it's all about votes. So, there are a handful of guys in the Senate who maybe don't like Trump, but at the end of the day, they like their job a heck of a lot better. And they could guarantee that they would never, ever be voted in again if they voted to impeach Trump. So I have no illusions about what's going to happen. Trump is going to skate, and the Democrats are going to try to impeach him again. Probably before the election, they're going to try it again. All they've really done is, I think, this was mostly an attempt to hobble Sanders and keep him off the campaign trail. And quite frankly, I think Trump would love to debate Bernie, and it would be an easy win for him. All he'd have to do is show some of that footage, some of that Veritas footage of his crazy people who he hasn't even fired, talking about gulags and talking about rounding people up for re-education camps. It's not going to play well in the sticks. Hate to tell you.